our final panel session of the day, and I'm delighted to be joined again by Kate Carrington. We spoke to Kate earlier this morning, and I'm also delighted to introduce Stuart Walton, who is IT Support Manager from Newman University. Good afternoon both, thank you for joining me today.
Hi Tessa, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Lovely to see you again.
Yeah, no, great, good to see you too, thank you.
My pleasure. Now,
Hello,
we're going to be having, hi Kate again, we're going to be having a chat, aren't we, about some of the kind of challenges of working in higher education. So I'm going to just do a quick plea now to our audience. You know, this is a great opportunity for them to kind of pick your brains, to ask any questions that they have around some of the challenges that you guys have faced over the last kind of 18, 20 months and what the plans really are for the future. As I say, we spoke to Kate earlier this morning. I wonder, Stuart, perhaps if you could just give us a little bit of insight into Newman University just before we start, just so that it helps put some of your kind of responses and questions and things into context.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we're a university in Birmingham. We're a small university with a Catholic ethos. So we've got like student numbers of about 3,000 and about 500 staff. And our IT team is 15 members of staff, including a support team of 8, and that's the team that I manage. We've just gone through a directorial change, so we've just had a new director join us about a month ago. I was the interim head of the department pretty much throughout the last year, and then returned to my role as being in charge of the people who set things off and on again. So yeah, that's where we are in terms of that. So we've had a return to campus. We operate 2/3 on campus, 1/3 off in terms of lectures. So not fully back like pre-COVID, I suppose.
Okay, fabulous, brilliant. Well, I do have some questions for you both, but perhaps I'll just start with a kind of generic one, I suppose, to kind of kick the ball rolling, if you like. And I suppose this is all around, we did some research at SDI, and we had some of our kind of university community were talking to us really about over the past 18 months, there has been a kind of challenges around the use of self-service dropping because people haven't been sure what to do, tickets increasing, people are returning to campus. Seems to be another kind of bit of a melting pot in terms of organisations kind of coming back and understanding how you provide that level of support. Perhaps you could just give us a bit of an insight as to what that's like for you guys at the minute.
Kate, shall I let you kick off on that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's totally fine. So with us, we are at the moment actively sort of decommissioning email as that contact channel. And it, as you saw before, like from my presentation, we have done, it hasn't just been something that we have been able to do and, you know, a month later we've done it. It's sort of like years in making, from getting, mainly it's that easiest route sort of thing again, because it's making our other channels better. Yeah. So we have actively, one of the first things that we did was remove our email from everywhere, and so those emails that take, you know, significantly longer to do, therefore taking more resource, where people were logging portal tickets because they couldn't find the alternative. So that was kind of like one way that we were able to deal with that. Another way was just complete, like, and actually linked in with that, is prioritizing the workload. So we had to deprioritize email. There was no way that we could have got through all of that workload with the resource that we had at the time. And then it was about getting in touch with all of our stakeholders to say that, you know, making sure that every time you emailed the service desk, it said, look, we will get back to you at some point. It might be 15 working days, but if you ring us, you'll get through in like 5 minutes. So that was a big piece of work for us, that sort of like prioritization.
Okay, thanks, Kate. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, in terms of that, I mean, we're quite early in our journey with a service management tool. We have introduced Top Desk just at the end of June. Which has been really good for us. So, you know, we're really trying to push the self-service portal as much as we can. We realise that that's something that we have to keep reviewing. and the kind of comment, kind of calls that we get in, we can look at and say, right, are we getting something that we can actually make a knowledge item for on the self-service portal and push people towards that, or creating forms that structure the responses that people give us, rather than having that back and forth of email. So I think long term we probably want to go down the route of removing email as a way of communicating, but we appreciate that it's quite early to just turn that off completely. So we're trying to show the benefits really of going through the portal and really push that at the moment. So that's the way we're going with that one.
Okay, thank you. And we talked a bit about with Hannah earlier, just about kind of the emotional connection, and actually people value an emotional connection more than they do the customer service itself, because people actually connect to that. And when you're looking at, I suppose, self-service and getting people to buy in and adopt to that, how do you create that emotional connection with that self-service, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned about the emotional connection. One of the things we did, like in response to the COVID pandemics, we did a lot of Zoom support for people.
Okay.
And so we were solving calls that we would have done face-to-face but over Zoom, which is fine, but also, induction of new staff members, not just in IT, but actually throughout the institution. We would give them that personalised service. We would say, right, your first day, you're going to have a call with Raj in our team, and he's going to give you a fantastic professional service, give you all the technology you need, sort out all your login, your email, all of this. And that allowed us to carry on the community spirit, which is really important at Newman. And so yeah, I think, as Hannah alluded to in her presentation about that emotional connection mattering, that's very much the case. And in terms of the resources that we make, in our self-service portal, it's very much that corporate identity, making sure that people recognise it as being part of like Newman systems already, rather than something that external, they don't really recognise it and it looks a bit kind of clinical or something. It's very much still feels like a Newman thing, and so yeah, people feel that connection to it. Okay,
thanks very much for that. And I know, Kate, when you did your presentation earlier, you were talking about the team expanding. I think you were looking at an expansion to the team. Have you got a different approach now to, we've just talked about induction, so if we go back a stage, and what's your kind of approach to recruitment going to look like now?
So in general, the way that we recruit and sort of have done while I've been in this role is it's quite intense. It's a 3-part, most of the day type of interview, and although we're aware that it's sort of like a long process, it gives us the best people, and it also gives us a really good day. It's made up of 3 parts. We have like a role play, we have a team activity, which is just so fun, and like an interview after that, and we didn't want to lose that. So we basically work with our technical teams to make sure that we could then do that over Teams. The role play actually worked out easier, so that was just easy to do over Teams. The team activity was a bit more difficult, but again that's such a big part of our team, that team spirit, that we needed to keep that part in as well. So we managed to do that within Teams, and just slightly tweak it. So yeah, that's kind of what we do, and then we focus on customer service. I know that someone spoke about that earlier, but we always focus on customer service because, yeah, you can teach the technical skills, but if they don't understand the customers and don't want, aren't passionate, and that's not the centre of what they do, then that's not in line with what the team are. So yeah, we're always recruiting for customer service.
Okay, fabulous. And a question here from one of our audience, and I think I'll ask you both the question because you might have slightly different answers, if I may. So the question is, our biggest challenge is getting users to read the information we send them, or is that just us? Doesn't matter what channel we try or how we send them information, 90% of users ignore it, and then they get hit by a problem, and the service desk tell them to read the docs we sent out. Does that sound familiar to either of you? And what do you do about it, I suppose?
Yeah, I don't know really what you do. I mean, it's very familiar. I think it's about putting the information in as many places as possible, I suppose, and not just relying on, we sent it once, so why didn't you read it? But using multiple channels. So we have, multiple channels of internal communication here at Newman, including digital signage around campus. So, important announcements about stuff would go on there, along with through email, and we've got an internal bulletin. We can post it as a broad service announcement on our portal. So we're really trying to do that. I think also trying to put, where possible, relevant information at the point where they're going to encounter the problem. Okay, so one of the biggest issues we had actually when I first joined the university 6 years ago was there's a non-standard way of turning projectors on in classrooms, because obviously buildings get built in stages and then you put the technology in that's relevant at the time. So you've got lots and lots of different kinds of ways of turning projectors on, and lecturers would be like, how do I turn the projector on? And you don't want to make them feel foolish and just say press the on button. So you put signs up by the actual device. So even though you might have emailed people to say, you will be able to find signs in classrooms, if you put it in the most logical place they're going to look, then hopefully that's going to get them to read just that very specific bit, which is press this particular button or whatever it happens to be. So it is a challenge, but I think we're constantly trying to think of new ways of getting the message out there.
Okay. Anything to add, Kate, at all?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with everything Stuart said. It's definitely something that we encounter at Manchester Met. One sort of, I guess we have layers of how much we want to, how much we want to put into the message getting out. So these aren't official sort of levels, but for example, now when we are turning email off, I'm really concerned that people aren't going to have read anything. And so we are going round team meetings of different teams around the university and doing a presentation. So I've made like a 4-slide presentation, and we're just going to have a chat with people and get those questions that way, which is quite long-winded, but then necessary for the work that we're doing. So again, yeah, it's as many places as possible that you can reach as far and wide across the university, I'd say.
On that as well, when you're saying about going to team meetings, one thing we're looking to develop is a digital ambassadors initiative. So recruiting people from around every department who are like early adopters, and so they get to try something new, and then they will evangelise about it to their team, as long as it's good, obviously. Yeah, that kind of, so word of mouth being the most powerful form of advertising, I think, really is that we can send as many emails out as we want, but I think getting people to actually spread that message as well is going to be really helpful.
No, absolutely. And I think both universities are kind of moving towards kind of hybrid working, aren't you? So some services and lectures online, some back at campus. So that's a different dynamic. So 2 years ago it was slightly different. We've had another dynamic, and now we're moving to the next phase. How are you kind of managing those kind of stakeholder expectations, again, from what we've had in the last 18 months? What does that look like for both of you?
Should I go first on this
one?
Go
for it, yeah.
So for us, it is about making, I guess, from going to those like meetings where there's the sort of like most people, and explaining exactly what the plan is and where, like, how that affects them. So there's, at the moment at MMU, we are pretty much 100% back on campus, and I know that's above the average of most universities across the UK, and that is, it's a really good thing, and actually lecturers and students really appreciate it, and we do have the capability to go back to online teaching at any point. So it's about us being ready and knowing, and lecturers knowing that there's the other options as well. So they've been, really heavily engaged with timetabling and having those backups, and options and things like that, and engagement with lecture capture and things like that this year were just so much more ramped up, because we needed all lecturers to kind of know exactly what we were doing. And I think those initial decisions to bring everyone back on campus really did involve everybody as well, because the types of things that we do at MMU, it does really benefit from that on campus. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but I think the main thing is just making sure that communication is really, really soaked up by all lecturers, and that they fully understand and are confident with what's going on, and that IT are as well. And we know, the service desk are fully aware if we have to, switch straight back to online teaching, we've got our processes, and we know that we have to follow them to help support everybody else.
Thanks, Kate. What about you, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, Kate's saying there about communication. I think that's the key thing. I mean, in terms of our managing of expectations, it's through using our portal, people can track the progress of their calls. So they can see the target date and when it's being worked on, and indeed who's working on it. So I think in the past, we have relied on just email and people just emailing us, and then you kind of feel like, well, did they get it? Is it it's a bit lost in a black hole? Is anybody actually working on this? And then you end up sending a follow-up email and so on. Whereas having that transparency with the target date, I think is really important. Obviously, we reinforce that tasks that are of sort of critical importance to the operation of the university, in other words, learning and teaching, they're going to get priority over things that are nice to have. But that's fine. That's how it's always been. There are emergency phones in every classroom, so that you can just get straight through to IT service desk and get somebody to go. Luckily, we're a small campus, so there's nowhere that's more than 5 minutes away. So I think that's the way we've gone about it. Really, is by introducing that portal. That's actually made our communication a lot more transparent.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And obviously we've talked a lot about comms, and you guys have talked about kind of switching email off and things. The question here we have is, how much do you rely on social media to get messages out? Do you want to take that one first, Stuart?
I can, because it'll be a quick answer, and it's we don't. So we haven't gone down that route yet. I did think about it some time ago, because obviously, like, if email goes down, you can't email everybody to say email is down, and we didn't at the time have a way of communicating that in any other fashion. And so I did think we would maybe set up like a little Twitter account that people could check. But then I realised the timeline would just look like email is down, and then the next time we tweeted it would be email is broken, and it would just look like a timeline of faults, when in fact we were probably doing a lot more. So in an absolute emergency, we can communicate through Newman social media channels, but we don't tend to.
Okay. What about you, Kate? Is that similar, or do you use social to get messages out at all?
So we do. We have, there's all the university sort of social media, but we have our own Twitter. It's like an MMU IT Twitter, and it's sort of someone from my team, senior analyst, has sort of like taken that on, and so it doesn't look like sort of a feed of bad news, which we're also really aware of. And he's actually amazing at like putting really fun things in there as well, and making it engaging, and it is really useful. Its target audience, we would say, is primarily students that follow that, but we do have staff members that follow us on Twitter as well. So when we send out those comms, when we're having incidents, we do always put tweets up there if that's appropriate as well. We don't take tickets or resolve issues or anything via Twitter. I noticed that was something that Hannah said earlier, that people value with social media. That was quite high up for me. So yeah, it's interesting, made me think about whether that's something that is worth branching out into. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's where we are with it at the minute.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Faith. I think this question I'll aim at Stuart, if I may. So you have lots of stakeholders at university to engage with, obviously. I suppose, how do your team engage students to provide feedback on the services that you're developing for students? That'd be really interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned about our digital ambassadors initiative. We're looking to include students in that, and obviously representation from undergraduates and masters and postgraduate students as well. So we're very hopeful that that's going to help further develop our student engagement. But we've done regular satisfaction surveys, so not just relying on NSS, but we actually do our own satisfaction surveys about IT's performance, or if we've introduced a new system, is this system working for you? And part of that, I mean, usually the first question is, do you even know about it? And worryingly, the answers might be quite high on the no front, but that means we've got to improve our communication, to students about these features. So yeah, I think through Microsoft Forms we've been using for some years, that's enabled us to gauge the opinion towards certain things. Lecture capture has been one, for example. It's been a thorny issue pre-COVID, we were able to gauge interest in that, and we could then go to our academic colleagues and say, look, there's a real appetite for lecture capture here, we can work with you to help you with this, and so that's been really helpful. So it enables us to then do a sort of you said we did kind of thing, so that kind of communication I think is good as well. But that's been the main method really, as I say, is that satisfaction survey. But hopefully with the digital ambassadors we can have another routine. We also have a presence on a number of committees, including the Student Experience Committee, which has student representation on there, so we can have a direct conversation with them right there as well.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So I think I have kind of two final questions for both of you. This session was around the challenges of working in higher education, and so my first question is, what are you most proudest of over the last 18 months? What's your most proudest achievement, I think, over the last 18 months? And then what are you looking forward to most about the next 18 months? Kate, do you want to take that one first?
Yes, okay, let me just have a quick think.
Take as long as you need on that, Kate.
So I think that the thing that I am the proudest of is the way that the team has worked with the university over the past 18 months, and that is learning more about what the university needs through their contacts with us, and then relaying that back so that we're able to make those changes, because that we wouldn't have the understanding of the needs of the university without the team, and they were so open and really engaged with what they were listening to and their struggles, and we received so much amazing feedback throughout that time, and for a team that it was the service desk, it was really hard. It was a really hard time, but their character really showed throughout that time, and that is something that I am really, really proud of. And I think that the relationship between the service desk and the university and lots of different teams within the university is so much better now, and is so much wider, and so many more teams that we know about, that the understanding that we have as well. And Teams has been amazing for that. That sort of like swarming work that has just happened because of COVID. That was very cool. So yeah, I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. The thing I'm looking forward to is, well, seeing switching email off. So that's only in the next couple of months, but really seeing the benefit of that and how that plays out, I think is going to be really, really interesting. The continuous improvement of our knowledge base is something that, to get it to a point where we can potentially look at chatbots, is something that I'm also really, really excited about and interested in, and that sort of figuring out what the university wants from a chatbot and how we can make that work so that it's a good one. And the team are really excited to do the technical work on that as well, like it's a little service desk project. So yeah, really looking forward to that, and to have the whole team in on the same day would be really nice, but that's just mainly looking forward to everyone feeling safe, really.
Fabulous, lovely. Thank you very much, Kate. And Stuart, what about you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, a number of the things Kate said there are things that I would say I was, really pleased and proud of in terms of our team. Certainly like the level of support people have given each other has been fantastic. And I think, the sort of, I mean, we've used Zoom rather than Teams, although we're hopeful of moving towards Teams in the future. But that ability to have sort of an instant meeting with somebody has actually made it easier to understand what other departments do, and having that greater understanding of that has then enabled us to have a more proactive attitude towards supporting them. And so, hitherto we've had a bit of an attitude of, if you tell us what you want, we'll see what we can do. And I think what we want to try and do is have the attitude of, we've seen this really cool thing, do you want to do it? So I think, there needs to be that sort of that move towards that level of partnership. So yeah, and I think one thing we were really praised about quite a lot by a number of people was how quickly we got people working from home. Once the pandemic hit in March last year, within about a week or two, everyone was able to work remotely, and that was a really fantastic achievement. Obviously we're a very small team, and so we just went, we're not focused on anything else, we're just making this happen, and that was great that we could just really prioritize and focus on that. So that was really cool. In terms of what I'm looking forward to, I think I'm looking forward to how we can develop and improve our service provision in the future, how we can keep working with people, how we can engage staff and students through the digital ambassadors. I think that's going to be really cool, because I think it's going to improve that relationship from being, as I say, a reactive service to being able to work in partnership with people. I think that's going to be really exciting for everyone in the team.
Brilliant, lovely, thank you. Well, that was a really nice way to end our chat today. So thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, Stuart and Kate. It's been lovely to see you. As I say, hopefully we look forward to seeing you at an SDI event soon in the future. So once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.